When kindness became a threat, he chose silence. But his actions left the company forever changed. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. You're about to witness a story that stirs your heart and restores the hope you thought was gone. Monday morning. The skies over Los Angeles were clear, but the air carried a strange, unfamiliar chill. Inside the building at 17 Washington and National, home to Lightstream Studios, everything looked business as usual. Glass, spotless desks aligned the coffee machine, hissing as it always did. But no one made eye contact, no one smiled, no one greeted anyone, all because of one email. Sent at 6:07 a.m. from upper management due to current budget constraints. Lightstream Studios will temporarily delay salary payments for all short-term contract and freelance employees for the next 2 weeks. We appreciate your understanding and support. Just that, no apology, no meeting, no further explanation. Liam, 23. A recently promoted post-production assistant read the email while waiting at the bus stop. He gripped his backpack strap tighter. His heart pounded not from fear of being fired, but because his father was in the hospital. After a minor stroke the week before, his mother had taken out a high-interest loan to cover the first round of treatment. Liam had promised that once he got this month's paycheck, he'd take care of the rest. He'd promised. It was the only reason his mother hadn't completely fallen apart. Now what? He arrived at the office and entered the edit suite. Everyone was there, but no one spoke. Everyone avoided each other's eyes. No one dared bring up the email. No one even dared to breathe too loud. Just the hum of the AC and the hollow clicking of mice trying to mask the panic swelling inside each person's chest. Some started checking their bank apps, a reflex really. They already knew what the email meant. They knew there'd be nothing in their accounts. Still, they checked anyway. That afternoon, the company's shared kitchen, once the heart of casual jokes, bold coffee and creativity, felt like a chamber full of compressed silence. No one spoke above a whisper. It was as if someone had dropped a bomb in the center of everyone's shared trust. Clara, a sound technician, walked in holding her stomach. 7 months pregnant, today was supposed to be her routine prenatal checkup. But when she opened her banking app and saw nothing had come through, she knew she'd have to cancel, not because she didn't have money, but because the money didn't come when it was promised. Nearby, Paul, a freelance audio mixer, sat hunched over, staring at his phone. On the screen, a message from his daughter. "Dad, we're still going to buy my soccer cleats tomorrow, right?" Paul sighed. He didn't know what to say. Since his wife passed away, weekends were the only sacred time he and his daughter shared. But now, even that felt uncertain. Across from them, Liam stayed quiet. He had just called his mom. "I'll send it in a few days, Mom. Everything's fine. Don't worry." His hands were shaking. His mom's voice had stayed soft, but there was a small exhale at the end of her sentence that broke him. "I know, honey." After 5 p.m., a group of junior staff gathered in a side meeting room. No managers, just the people wondering what to do next. "We should write a petition or post anonymously on LinkedIn. What if the company finds out? And if we stay quiet, will next month's pay come at all?" Questions piled up. But no answers came. There were no lawyers, no union reps, and more importantly, no bargaining power. Most of them were young, new to the industry, hopeful. They entered the creative world, believing passion would be rewarded. Now they were learning the truth. Passion doesn't pay hospital bills, rent, or bus fare. And just when someone suggested, "Maybe we speak out together?" another voice cut in, half joking, half terrified. "Unless Keanu Reeves is backing us, we're pretty much screwed." They laughed a little too hard. Laughter that felt like glue over a cracked wall. No one knew that in the room next door, Keanu Reeves was sitting alone and heard everything. That evening, the office was quieter than usual. Some staff left early. Others stayed behind, pretending that keeping their editing software open might help them feel something like normal. Keanu, though he stayed late, he didn't speak to anyone. didn't attend the side meeting, but he knew exactly what was happening. Not because someone told him, but because he listened to everything. He listened to Clara's heavy breathing as she poured her tea. He heard Liam's phone call when he couldn't bring himself to say, "I have no money." He saw the way the junior editors hammered their keyboards, not from workload, but from frustration. But Keanu Reeves wasn't the kind of man who acted impulsively. He was the kind who spent a night thinking and a morning quietly doing something about it. The next day, Liam arrived at the office early. He still hoped for a miracle. He didn't know the miracle had already arrived, waiting inside his mailbox, a white envelope. No name inside a check for $3,500. He stood there stunned, thinking he must be hallucinating. At the same time, Clara received a similar envelope. So did Paul. And two others, the ones who had said the least, but whose eyes had quietly begged for help the most. No sender name, handwritten neat but anonymous. Each envelope included a short note. You are not weak because you needed help. You are strong because you showed up each day, even when no one reached for your hand first. That same day, Keanu didn't show up at the office, the room he'd used for editing. Empty on the desk, only a note remained. Project canceled. Thank you for letting me borrow a quiet space. No one connected the dots, no one except Liam. As he stared at the check in his hands, a quote he once read somewhere floated into his mind. Real heroes don't wear capes, they wear black jackets. Sit quietly in corners and smile when no one is looking. That weekend, no one went public. No protest email, no anonymous LinkedIn post, but something in the air had shifted at Lightstream Studios. People still hadn't received their salaries, but they began to look each other in the eye. No more glancing away, no more walking around like they owed the world some invisible debt. Liam brought Clara a coffee Monday morning. He didn't say a word, just placed the cup down and smiled. Paul printed out some medical paperwork for a young colleague he'd never spoken to before, and a group of technicians left a small envelope on the janitor's desk. Inside $60 and a note that read, "We don't know your name yet, but we know you show up every night." One afternoon, Liam stood in front of the vending machine. He didn't buy anything. He just stood there thinking about the person who helped him, quietly, without a name, without asking for thanks. A coworker approached and whispered, "Hey, do you think?" It was Keanu Reeves. Liam looked up. He smiled faintly. "I'm not sure, and I don't think it matters." The coworker blinked. "It doesn't?" Liam nodded. Because if someone like him wanted to be seen, the best way to say thank you isn't to say his name. It's to become a version of him for someone else. That evening, Liam rewrote the note he had received. He taped it inside his locker on the inner door. No one else would see it, only him. Each day, you are strong because you showed up even when no one reached for your hand first. And in that moment, he understood. One person can help 5. But if those 5 help 5 more. Kindness doesn't need a name. It just needs a beginning. The following week, Lightstream Studios returned to its usual rhythm. Projects resumed. New clients reached out. The company bulletin promised full payroll by the end of the month, as if nothing had ever happened. But for those who'd received the envelopes, things had changed. A small group began hosting informal tea breaks every Friday. Not for chit-chat, but to quietly listen to each other. Paul started mentoring a few of the new interns for free. Clara drafted the idea of an internal emergency support circle. They didn't talk about money anymore. They talked about presence. Then the rumors began. Someone in finance overheard mentions of mysterious envelopes. A mid-level executive received an anonymous email. The company should be aware someone is interfering with internal compensation structure. At first, no one paid much attention. But that changed when a well-known rigid board member asked during an internal meeting, "Who made transfers to our staff without going through payroll?" The air changed instantly. No one answered, but glances drifted sideways. Liam stared at the table. Paul looked away, Only Clara held her gaze steady, but said nothing. The next morning, Liam received an anonymous email. No sender, no subject, just a single line. If anyone asks, say you don't know. Liam read it 3 times. He didn't know who sent it, but he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't from someone who wanted gratitude. It was from someone who knew that being exposed might kill the very thing they tried to protect. And Liam understood. When kindness isn't part of the system, it's easy for the system to see it as a threat. That weekend, another internal email was sent out. This time it didn't mention delayed salaries or financial plans. Just one brief line: executive leadership will be reviewing recent internal financial activity. If you have any relevant information, please come forward. No one replied, but everyone knew. The company was trying to trace kindness as if it were a system flaw that needed fixing. On Monday, Keanu returned. No announcement, no fanfare, no entourage. He walked calmly down the hallway, nodded politely at the receptionist, and headed back into the small edit suite now locked since his last visit. He carried a laptop, a notebook, and a paper bag with a sandwich and coffee. No one knew why he was back. Some guessed it was scheduling. Others whispered. Maybe he doesn't know about the envelopes, but Liam knew. And that knowledge made it impossible for him to meet Keanu's eyes when they crossed paths at the water cooler. "Good morning," Liam said quietly, then hesitated. Keanu turned, smiled, nodded, asked nothing. Liam walked away, his chest tight. He didn't know if he wanted to say thank you or be careful. That afternoon, during a boardroom meeting, the head of finance asked bluntly, "Do we have any leads? Who was it?" Silence, a post-production manager who hadn't received an envelope but had suspicions, offered gently. It might have been an outside party, someone using temporary credentials. Another executive laughed. "Heard a rumor. It was Keanu Reeves. Come on. People like that don't spend their own money on strangers." Laughter followed dry hollow. Downstairs in the quiet suite, Keanu sat alone. On the desk beside his laptop was an old photograph, a small indie film crew from 1997. Back then, when an investor walked away, mid-shoot he had personally paid every crew member on time. He looked at the photo. Didn't smile, didn't frown, just remembered. Remembered why he was still here. Wednesday, late afternoon, an unscheduled meeting was held on the 5th floor, usually reserved for clients and VIP guests. What made it unusual was this: Keanu Reeves had been invited. The email came from the CEO himself. No specific agenda, just, "We'd like to share some updates regarding collaboration and commitment to internal processes." Keanu read the email, folded it, didn't reply immediately. He sat in the minimalist edit suite, watched the soft light pouring through the blinds. Then stood up, put on his jacket, and walked to the meeting. The meeting began with polite greetings, coffee courtesies. But no one addressed the point directly until the head of finance finally spoke. "We deeply appreciate your presence here at Lightstream, Keanu. But recently there have been rumors about anonymous financial assistance being given to employees," a manager added. "We don't doubt the intention, but you understand, this is a company. We have procedures, protocols. If someone outside our payroll structure interferes, it could cause chaos." The CEO finished. Silence. All eyes turned to Keanu. He didn't speak right away. He didn't defend. He didn't deny. He simply placed his hand gently on the table and said, "I understand." His voice was calm, steady. "I wasn't trying to create chaos. I just thought, when someone's about to lose a parent or a pregnant woman, can't afford a checkup, waiting for the system might come too late." No one responded. Keanu looked around the table. At each of them, quiet, patient. "If that was wrong, I'll accept that. But if you choose to remove me from this space, I ask only one thing. Don't stop the people who remain here from caring for each other." There was no applause, no praise, Just truth sitting in the middle of a well-decorated room, surrounded by logic but missing a pulse. And Keanu, as always, stood up, nodded gently, and left the room, leaving behind a lesson no one could forget, because it wasn't taught. 3 days after the meeting, Keanu didn't return to the office. No announcement, no farewell, no parting message. His workspace was empty, laptop gone. Only one item remained on the desk, a notebook. On the first page, gently folded, one line was written: "If someone ever gave you something quietly, keep it alive by giving quietly too." Liam was the first to find it. He didn't tell anyone, but the next day he arrived earlier than usual, made an extra coffee for Clara, brought a sandwich for Paul, and left a handwritten note on a new intern's desk. "If you ever need something, just ask. No reason needed." Later that week, the tech team proposed a new initiative, an internal rollover fund. No big announcements, no posters, no charity titles. Just one rule: if you have something, contribute. If you need something, no questions, no names. The head of finance knew about it, but this time, he didn't stop it. Maybe because just the night before he had received a call from the hospital. His mother had been admitted urgently. And in that moment, he knew what it meant to wish someone would show up. Not on time, but in time. One late afternoon, Clara stepped out of the office holding her latest prenatal report. On her way past the staff bulletin board, she noticed a small envelope taped behind it. Curious, she pulled it off. Inside, no money. Just a black and white photo, a small film crew sitting on the back of a truck in 1997, eating lunch with their hands. At the center, a man in a black jacket pouring water for the camera operator. On the back of the photo, a message: "I can't always stay, but if one day you choose to keep giving, then I never really left." Clara smiled. She didn't cry. She didn't tell anyone. She simply slipped the photo into her file folder right beside her baby's ultrasound, as if to say both were signs of life worth holding on to. 5 years later, Liam stood inside a newly opened post-production studio on the outskirts of Los Angeles. What used to be his parents' old garage had become a warm, open space, lined with editing stations, walls covered in behind-the-scenes photos, and one large whiteboard that read, "No one gets left behind." The studio was called Frame 1, named after the first visible frame of a film strip. Liam wasn't rich, he wasn't famous. But Frame 1 had become a magnet for young creatives just out of film school, those who couldn't afford unpaid internships or who'd been turned away for lack of experience. Here no one asked, "What big projects have you worked on?" They asked, "What are you fighting for?" That day, Liam received an unusual email. A group of film students asked to use the space to edit their short film. They had no budget, but they had an idea and a peculiar introduction. "We were inspired by someone. No one really knows." Liam paused. They spoke of a mysterious figure, someone who had helped others during a hard time. Left no name, only traces of action. One of the students was Paul's daughter, Paul, the sound mixer from Lightstream, all those years ago. In the email she wrote, "My dad used to tell me about a man who never called himself a hero, but helped a lot of people survive. We want to tell that story in our own way." Liam printed out the email and pinned it to the board near the coffee machine. He didn't say a word, just stood there for a moment, then smiled. The story that one man tried to keep quiet was being retold not for glory, but to keep others warm. 2 weeks later, Liam stepped into the editing suite where the student group was working on the final cut of their short film. He didn't interrupt, just stood quietly in the back, watching the screen. The shot was in black and white, recreating a scene from 5 years ago. An empty boardroom, low lighting. A man in a black jacket bows his head quietly, leaves the room, all that remains a vacant chair and a photograph on the table. The voiceover, soft and female. "Not everyone who walks away is defeated. Some leave, so others can stay." Liam swallowed hard. He said nothing, but his heart paused for just one beat. The next day, one of the students approached him hesitantly. "Hey, Liam, my dad said you once visited a small restaurant in Kyoto, right? Liam blinked. How do you know that? Because in our short film, there's a small detail based on that place. A man left an envelope there, no name. Inside was a photo of a truck and a handwritten message. Liam froze. What did it say? She pulled out her phone and showed him the image, handwritten. I can't stay forever. But if someone chooses to continue, then I never really left. The following week, Liam booked a flight to Japan. No announcements, no explanations. He arrived at the same tiny restaurant tucked into a narrow Kyoto alleyway, the old wooden sign still worn, the red lantern still gently swaying. The same elderly woman was behind the counter. She looked at Liam, paused for a long moment, then smiled. Last time you came, you didn't say a word. This time, what are you looking for? Liam answered quietly. I'm not sure I'm looking. Maybe I just want to know if the person who once passed through here left anything behind. The woman nodded. She disappeared into the back and returned with a weathered envelope, its edges yellowed with time. Someone left this behind. Said that one day, someone would come back for it. Liam sat at an old wooden table inside the small Kyoto restaurant. Outside, autumn winds stirred red leaves past the doorway. The place was quiet. Only the soft bubbling of tea water in a clay kettle. In front of him, a time-worn envelope sealed with yellowed tape. No return address, no recipient name. Only one line written in blue ink. If you found this place, it means you didn't forget. Liam opened the envelope. Inside, a folded letter, a small photograph, and an old brass key. The letter was handwritten. Simple pen strokes, slightly slanted left, exactly like the writing on the photo he'd seen from the students. Liam read slowly. There are things I've never been allowed to tell. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid that once told, the story would stop being mine. I left no name. Because if you came looking for my name, you might miss what I really wanted to share. I once sat in a small office listening to young people drowning in quiet despair, yet still showing up every day. And I realized what they needed wasn't someone standing on a podium, but someone sitting quietly beside them. This key doesn't unlock treasure, just a small room where I used to live, to write, to remain quiet. If you choose to enter, bring that silence with you. Liam held the key in his palm. Old, worn, unlabeled. He looked at the photo, a small book-lined room, a wooden desk, a square window filtering soft morning light. On the table, a closed leather notebook beside a steaming cup of tea. No one was in the photo, but Liam didn't need a face. He could feel who had once been there. He folded the letter, bowed gently to the shopkeeper, asked no questions, sought no directions, and stepped outside. One thought sat in his chest like a steady ember. Some people never leave an address, but they leave a path. The room was on the third floor of an old Kyoto building near the train station. Liam found it late in the afternoon, after following faint clues and a handwritten line from the letter. I didn't leave an address, but the room was never locked. The wooden door was worn. The brass key fit perfectly. The lock clicked open with the softest sound. No one was inside, just golden light slanting through the window. Everything felt like it had paused in time, but there was no dust. On the desk sat a closed leather notebook, exactly like the one in the photo. Beside it, an empty teacup, dry now but faintly fragrant. Liam didn't touch anything. He just sat down gently without a sound. He opened the notebook, blank pages, except for the first. If you've sat down, keep writing. No one asked. No one demanded. But Liam understood. This story no longer belonged to one man. It was a quiet invitation, without word. Years later, Frame One Studio had become a warm, tight-knit community. Each year they accepted a few young creators, no fancy resumes required. Just real motivation. In the office lobby stood a small glass cabinet. Inside, objects with no value but deep meaning. An old key, a cracked teacup, a worn-out keychain, etched on the velvet lining. No one starts in glory, but everyone can start in silence. During a rare interview that year, a journalist asked, "Why have you never revealed the person who inspired you?" Liam smiled. Not evasive, just thoughtful. "Finally," he replied. "Because if I said their name, you'd think the story ends with them. But I believe it's only just beginning with the people who've never been named at all."